You're listening to Beyond Wellness Radio, bringing you the cutting edge in health, biohacking, and sports performance. Stay up to date and listen anywhere and anytime on your computer, tablet, or smartphone by subscribing on iTunes. Catch your host, Dr. Justin Marchegiani, as he answers your burning health questions as well as interviews from world-renowned guest experts. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.
Hey there, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani. Welcome to Beyond Wellness Radio. Feel free and head over to beyondwellnessradio.com where you can access our full podcast transcriptions. While you're there, you can also sign up for our thyroid and female hormone video series. This series goes into the root cause of why your hormones are out of balance. While you're there, you can also schedule a functional medicine consult with Dr. Justin, myself, where we'll dig deeper into the root cause of your health challenges. Feel free and think of sharing this podcast with at least one person. This podcast grows by people sharing it. Sharing is caring. If you can think of one person that can benefit from this information, please feel free and share it. If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you subscribe on iTunes. You can also click below the video or podcast where you'll see the iTunes review button and leave us a review. You can also sign up for the newsletter at beyondwellnessradio.com where you'll get updates before anyone else. Thank you so much and enjoy the show. Hey, it's Dr. J here with Evan Brand, and today we're going to be talking about thyroid issues. We get lots of patients coming into our offices and they're like, hey, doc, I got a thyroid issue. What do I do? And we haven't even talked about what we're going to say yet, but we're just going to have a dynamic conversation about what we recommend any of our patients that are coming in that think they have a thyroid issue, what the first steps they need to take are to be successful and to start helping to push their thyroid to heal in that right direction. Evan, what's up today, man?
Hey, not much. I'm fired up. Let's do this thing.
Dude, I'm ready to go, man. My thyroid's feeling great today, so let's do this.
Sounds good.
Before we get going, what'd you have for breakfast?
What did I have? I can't even remember. I woke up. Did I eat anything yet? I may even be fasted, honestly. What did I eat? I have no clue. If I remember, I'll let you know.
Nice. So you didn't eat any leprechauns or gnomes today?
No.
Nothing like that?
No.
Gotta love those grass-fed leprechauns, man. They're awesome.
Yeah.
Especially if you get some Kerrygold butter, it's like perfect.
A little pinch of Himalayan salt.
That's it. All right, so thyroid issues, thyroid 101. So first off, anyone that's potentially having hair loss, energy issues, fatigue, the outer third of those eyebrows that are thinning, potential constipation, vertical ridging on those fingers, low temperature, tingling numbness in the fingers and toes. These are all potential signs and symptoms of a thyroid issue. But the problem with the thyroid is that a lot of the symptoms, it's like a Venn diagram where there's a massive overlap between thyroid issues and adrenal issues. So all of my patients, no matter if they have a diagnosed thyroid issue or not, we want to look at the thyroid and the adrenals side by side.
Yeah, I remember what I had for breakfast. It was organic pork sausage that my wife made for me. That's why I didn't remember, because I didn't prepare it.
Nice. Awesome.
Yes. So you've already alluded to we were going to talk about, what is the first step to do when it comes to thyroid issues. And for me, my answer, which I didn't know your answer, my answer was going to be to look at the adrenals, because if the adrenals are taxed, then it's going to be pretty hard for us to keep the thyroid in a good, healthy, functioning manner if the adrenals are taxed.
Yeah. So let's just break down thyroid physiology for the listeners. So your thyroid gland is this little bow tie type of gland that sits just below the Adam's apple. So if you just kind of run your hand or down your chin here, where your chin and your platysma, that skin underneath your chin, hits your throat, that little bump there, that's your Adam's apple. If you go about a centimeter down and a centimeter out, that's your thyroid gland. And that gland secretes a hormone called T4 that gets converted into an active thyroid hormone, T3. So that gland right there, bow tie shape, that thyroid hormone is needed for all cells of the body to be metabolically active, right, to control metabolism. And that T4, about 20% of it happens at the thyroid gland. So the conversion of T4 to T3, right, T4 inactive, T3 active, 20% of that conversion happens at the thyroid gland. The other 80% happens peripherally. So now out of that 80% that happens peripherally, 60% is the liver, 20% is in the healthy gut bacteria, and the other 20% via healthy adrenal function and stress regulation. So there's a lot of like percentages in there. I go back to that Anchorman quote, 60% of the time it works every time, or 100% of the time. So it's a little confusing. So just a quick little recap on it. 20% of thyroid conversion at the thyroid, T4, T3, done, right there. The other 80% happens peripherally, 60 liver, 20 gut, healthy gut bacteria and gut function, 20% by healthy stress and adrenal management.
That's cool. Yeah. And so you mentioned the liver. That is a place where I actually would have not started with the thyroid, but I didn't realize the huge percentage there. I always look at the adrenal stress picture, so maybe I'm looking at the smaller piece of the pie when I should be looking at the bigger one.
Yeah, I mean the enzyme 5-deiodinase enzyme. So deiodinase, what it means is it's deiodinating, meaning it's pulling off an iodine molecule. So when you see like T4, with the T4, the T stands for tyrosine, which is an amino acid, and the 4 stands for 4 molecules of iodine. So when you're deiodinating something, you're pulling off one iodine molecule. So you're pulling off one molecule off the T4, which then makes it the T3. And the enzyme that does that 5-deiodinase enzyme, is selenium-based. And a lot of that conversion happens in the liver. That's where that enzyme is most metabolically active.
And a lot of people are deficient in selenium.
Absolutely. I mean, 200 to 400 mics a day is going to be a pretty good amount. And if you're sitting there thinking, well, I just got to have 3 Brazil nuts, the selenium content in Brazil nuts can range between tenfold. So you could have 3 Brazil nuts hoping to get 200 micrograms of selenium, or maybe you're getting 20 micrograms of selenium, depending upon the soil it was grown in. So there's quite a lot of variation. So really important that you're on a good multivitamin that's got 200 micrograms of selenium in it just off the get-go. And all of my patients are on a high-quality, highly absorbable multi with 200 mics of selenomethionine as our thyroid insurance policy.
That's great. Yeah, I should probably switch mine. I've been using just a standalone because I'm not using a multi right now personally. I've just been using a 200 mic of selenium by itself.
Nothing wrong with that too. So we talked about the thyroid, right? Let's talk about adrenal physiology, just so everyone kind of can wrap their head around it. I want to take these complicated concepts, break it down, and have people walk away with an action point. So the adrenals, they sit right on top of our kidneys, and they help manage stress. And again, stress isn't just emotional stress, it's physical stress. It's also chemical, which could be blood sugar, it could be infections, it could be inflammation. And our adrenal physiology is we're pumping out cortisol. And that cortisol fluctuates throughout the day in a diurnal rhythm, meaning higher in the morning, lower at night. And that cortisol is there to help give us energy. It's there to help put out the fire of inflammation. But our adrenals also put out a significant amount of sex hormone too, called DHEA sulfate. And that sulfate's really important for healing. It's really important for sex hormone output for females. So a lot of PMS symptoms are going to be caused by adrenal fatigue. And we need healthy levels of cortisol to be able to help assist in thyroid conversion. So that cortisol, if it's too high, that cortisol will actually block thyroid conversion and increase TSH, which is this brain hormone called thyroid stimulating hormone. So too much cortisol, we block that T4 to T3 conversion. We have TSH go up. And if we don't have enough cortisol, then we're tired already because cortisol gives us energy and it regulates blood sugar. We don't have enough cortisol for thyroid conversion. And then typically in those patients, TSH will even look normal on a lab test, but T3 will be low. And you'll go to your doctor every time, you'll go to your endo, and they'll tell you your thyroid's fine when it's not.
Yeah, actually, I just got a lab result back from a female patient yesterday. She's in her mid-30s. She loves high-intensity interval training. She's got everything pointing at adrenal issues. So we finally get the salivary results back. her cortisol is so low, man. She's in the 0 to 5 range in the morning, and she's just like 2 to 3 units per day. The only thing that was in range was her nighttime level because she's completely tanked at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. I see that all the time. So the things that we're trying to get across to anyone listening is, so you get some thyroid symptoms. Take a step back. We got to look at the thyroid, right, individually. We got to look at the adrenals individually. So the test you want for the adrenals is going to be a 201 by BioHealth. That's a cortisol rhythm test. And if people are having a hard time getting access to these tests, they can reach out to you, they can reach out to me, and we can get access to these tests for them and evaluate it. That's step one. The next test is a full thyroid panel. That's going to be your TSH. That's going to be your T4 free, your T4 total, your T3 free, your T3 total, ideally a T3 uptake and reverse T3, and thyroid antibodies, because a significant percent of these patients, they're autoimmune.
That's awesome that you mentioned that, and you're never going to get told to run that by your conventional doctor. So once again, we're looking at this from a functional perspective, not the, oh, your TSH is low or whatever, here's some Synthroid.
That's it. That's it. In most patients, because they're autoimmune, what autoimmune is, it means self-attacking self. That your immune system is ramped up to the degree where it's attacking the thyroid tissue and breaking it down. And the problem with that is people that have this autoimmune type of sequelae of symptoms, they're in the middle of hyper to hypo, because as the gland's being attacked or stabbed, if you will, the thyroid hormone is dripping out, creating hyper secretions, because there's a lot more dripping out, if you will. It's kind of like, if you use the gruesome analogy of, like, let's say you stab someone, right? A whole bunch of blood comes out in the beginning, but in the end, the person's empty and there's no more blood left. Think of your thyroid as like that. I know it's kind of a gruesome analogy, but honestly, you will never forget it, and you'll be able to wrap your head around, oh, I'm having a hyper-like symptom. Oh, wait, now I'm hypo, and you kind of go back and forth. You're going to think of those thyroid as like your immune system's putting little knives into it, and it's stripping the hormone out, and you only got about 3 to 4 months of thyroid hormone stored in those follicles. So once those follicles have been bursted for a long enough time, they're eventually going to run dry, and you're going to start having more hypo-like symptoms.
Yeah, and if people had access to the video feed here, they would be laughing out loud at your hand demonstrations. It's just a great great analogy.
I know. I'm like pretending I have a knife in my hand and like trying to like motioning like I'm stabbing my thyroid gland. Oh man! And just so everyone knows, I do have Hashimoto, so I can speak from experience. I've had to make myself an expert on thyroid health because of necessity, because conventional medicine typically offers nothing for it.
Yep, so, you're a wounded warrior, man. Those are the best ones to see.
Absolutely. And I can say with confidence that anyone watching this or listening to this show is going to walk out of it knowing more than their conventional trained endocrinologist on thyroid issues from a functional perspective. They're going to know more of the disease stuff, of course, like, thyroid nodules and Graves and things like that. But the thing is, conventional medicine's approach is pretty much 3 options, okay? If it's Hashimoto's or hypo, it's Synthroid. Most people that are given Synthroid, that's synthetic T4, they don't convert it to T3, so they still have tons of thyroid symptoms. Number 2, if they're Graves, they're typically going to just want a thyroidectomy, pull the darn thyroid out, done, right? Number 3, radioactive iodine, shut the thyroid gland down. I mean, those are the 3 major options, or they'll give like methimazole or polypropyl uracil to help knock down the thyroid hormone levels. They'll give PTU or something like that. So those are like the 3 to 4 options that are in the cookbook of your conventional endocrinologist for thyroid. There may be a rare thing left out there, thyroid cancer, thyroidectomy as well, but that's your general kind of gist. And the majority of people, 90% of people, are going to be in the hypo Hashimoto camp, and there's going to be underlying issues that are affecting the thyroid conversion outside of their control. It's not going to be pathological, it's going to be functional, and that's where we come in to really get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, so we alluded to the adrenal distress picture, but I mean, what's the other important picture? I mean, would you look at something like adding in some liver support? I mean, some milk thistle, if you're going to be helping take some of the load off of the toxin filtration process that the liver is doing, is that going to free up more energy, so to speak, more fuel for the liver to do its job in thyroid conversion? Am I thinking right there?
Absolutely. So a lot of times we'll start out and we'll run an organic acid test, and we'll be able to run various organic acid markers that will look at liver function, like hippurate, glucarate. There's about 6 or 7 of them. Sulfate, for instance, pyroglutamate for B12. So we'll be able to run these different markers that look at methylation, that look at N-acetylation, that look at our detoxification pathways from a phase 1, phase 2 perspective, so we can really get a window on how it's functioning. But typically off the bat, because I don't want to get into supplement overload with patients, the first thing we're doing is just clearing out all the liver stress from a diet and lifestyle perspective, right? Aspartame, all the junky food additives, gluten, all of the crap that's just in your diet, that has to go first, right? Because our liver is always detoxifying. Giving detoxification support, you're not, turning on detoxification systems. You're buffering it. You're taking the stress off, which can be helpful, but we always want to make sure we're stopping the stress from going in first, and then it's probably better supplementing later. So for me, I have a 3-body system approach where it's hormones first, and then part of that foundational layer below that is diet, lifestyle, and nutrition. So that's the first step that we're looking at before we go deeper. And there's exceptions to every rule, but that's general the first step.
Yeah, I always like to geek out and go beyond because sometimes I assume that people have the diet and lifestyle picture figured out, but a lot of people are still struggling with that.
Yeah, I mean, I see so many of my thyroid patients, their adrenals are shot, and they're just so myopically focused on the thyroid gland that they forget about the adrenals and they forget about their female hormones, right? We can't forget progesterone, a female hormone, is responsible or highly involved in TPO production, okay? So TPO is thyroid peroxidase. That's an enzyme that actually helps build or make thyroid hormone. It binds the iodine and the tyrosine together. And if we have super low progesterone, that's going to lower thyroid peroxidase activity. So we're going to be making less thyroid hormone just by having lower progesterone. And again, why do we have lower progesterone? Well, because progesterone goes downstream to make cortisol if we're under a lot of stress. And that low progesterone in the second half of the cycle, right during that week before you bleed, that's your PMS time. Well, that's where PMS happens typically due to that progesterone falling out early.
And the reason that happens, you're saying, is because you have elevated cortisol from excess stress. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, elevated cortisol in the acute phase and then chronically low in the, lower in the chronic phase.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning the longer that stress has been going on, that cortisol bottoms out.
So when that cortisol bottoms out, what happens to progesterone then compared to when cortisol is high?
Well, progesterone's a building block for cortisol. So if we look at the adrenal hormone cascade, we see cholesterol is the first domino. Like all hormones are made from cholesterol. So don't go on a low-fat diet, vegan diet. You will destroy your hormones. I've seen it hundreds of times. Again, some people do better on it than others, and a lot of people feel better on a vegan diet because they're coming from it with a crappy standard American diet. So they see improvement, and they think, well, it's the vegan diet, but no, it's all the other crap they cut out. That's another podcast for another time. But cholesterol first, conversion to pregnenolone. Pregnenolone then gets converted to progesterone on the other side of the cascade, and then progesterone gets converted to cortisol. So you can see what happens is if we're under more stress, this progesterone escape, this cortisol escape, where that progesterone leaks down because it's needing to deal with the cortisol stress. The cortisol needs to be there to manage the stress and inflammation. So I always tell patients, your body is hardwired to deal with the stress of today versus the healing of tomorrow. Right? Progesterone is there for healing. It's there for healthy brain and brain function and relaxation. It's also there for pregnancy, right? Progestation, progesterone. So all those are really important, but if our body is so stuck in the stress in the moment, tomorrow never happens because you're always in this stressed out state.
Yeah, and that's a miserable place to be, by the way.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So almost all my female patients, they come in with some degree of thyroid issue, some degree of adrenal fatigue. And then because all of these are connected, right, these hormones function and dysfunction together, there's a level of PMS and or female hormone dysfunction along with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you were kind of alluding to the pregnenolone steal. If people want to geek out and read about that, it's an amazing, just to look at the chart of all the hormones getting stolen and sex hormones are messed up and now your libido's gone. And I mean, it's just everything goes haywire.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. Did you want to comment that a little more?
Well, I just think you're doing a really good job of taking a pretty complex topic and breaking it down. I mean, this is intimidating for some people to try to take this knowledge into their lives and apply it. And, if they try to go back to their doctor with this information, they'll probably be just laughed at, or maybe even they'll get their eyes rolled at. Oh, I heard this functional medicine doctor and this functional nutrition guy talking about this, and just silly.
Exactly. And just remember, right, if you're going to your doctor and you're trying to get functional medicine help in the conventional medical model, you're like banging your head against a wall,
mm-hmm.
right? It's going to be very, very difficult, right? It's trying to get your surgeon to not operate. I mean, your surgeons are typically there to operate. That's what they're there for. That's what they're trained for. And same thing with conventional physicians. Conventional physicians are there to most of the time just prescribe drugs unless they've been taken training outside of the conventional medical paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go there, you're going to find yourself having to educate your doctor more about this. And again, why do you want to sit there and educate your doctor about this when you can find people that are already educated?
I agree.
I have patients all the time that are like, well, can you call my conventional doctor and talk to them about that? I'm like, that is an act of futility. I mean, they can listen to this podcast, but you're much better off just finding people that are already in sync, because then you don't have to waste time. So with that, the typical downfalls I see, most patients go to their doctor, they talk about adrenal issues. Let's say the topic of adrenal issues are brought up, right? Conventional doctor, first thing they go to is Addison's or Cushing's disease. So Addison's is an adrenal failure state. Cortisol is almost non-existent. And then Cushing's is a hyper cortisol state, right, where you typically have elevations of blood sugar, you have the moon-shaped face, you have the buffalo hump in the back, lots of adiposity, and that's it. So we have the two extremes, right? So basically, you go to your doctor, it's the one extreme on the high and the one extreme on the low, and the idea that everything in between is normal, that's the idea. That's what it is. And in the functional realm, we realize that there are two extremes and there's a functional spectrum in between there. And the farther away you reach the high or low end, the more symptoms you have. But the problem with that philosophy is that you may never reach the high or the low end. And what that means is you're stuck. You're never going to get help. You're going to be told it's all in your head, and there's going to be no solutions for you.
Right.
That's the problem.
Yeah. Or here's an antidepressant. It's just that's what we're going to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And they're just going to just say it doesn't exist. So we want to just differentiate adrenal failure versus adrenal fatigue, right? Adrenal fatigue is more of the functional imbalance that may or may not progress into a disease state. 90% of people that have adrenal fatigue are never going to progress into an Addison's or Cushing state. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've personally never seen adrenal failure. I've only dealt with the fatigue side of things. Luckily, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there's people out there that are in that, but I haven't dealt with any.
Yeah. So if you're going to your conventional doctor and you're having this conversation, just know that there's going to be a massive amount of backlash, and there's why. Right? Because of the differences in fatigue versus failure, right? Adrenal fatigue is more of an HPA, right? Brain talking to adrenal issue, and also a stress feedback loop issue, right? That's number one. And then on the thyroid side, well, most doctors are going to run a TSH, which is a thyroid stimulating hormone test, which is nothing more than a brain test. It's looking at your pituitary. So, for instance, if we wanted to test something, it makes sense to actually test the hormone that the gland produces. So, for instance, if we want to test your hormone function for your, let's say, your testosterone, right? We would test testosterone, right? We wouldn't test LH
per se, we would test testosterone. That makes the most sense because testosterone is the actual hormone we're looking at. But LH, that's the pituitary hormone that tells the gonads to make testosterone. So why would we just look at LH when we can go look at the actual hormones being made? Same thing, take that analogy now and throw it into the thyroid. Why are we using brain hormones to look at and assess the thyroid when we can actually test the T4 and T3 hormones individually? Well, it's just because it's an antiquated way. It's what we were able to test first, and it's kind of the whole model of drug prescribing is based off of that. So it's a very end-stage approach. We're looking at the disease pathology, the high and low, versus the functional imbalances that happen in between. So we want to live on the in-between side, all of the functional imbalances in between, not on the high and low side. Most patients that come to see us, if they're on the high or low, they already know it and they've been prescribed. And typically, many of them still don't feel better and they still need answers.
Yep. And we do get them back in that functional range, and it's amazing how much you can feel better. Even something like optimizing vitamin D levels has been huge for, like my grandpa. He was having a lot of chronic low back pain issues. I found a couple studies linking the two, and we upped his vitamin D, retested, and now, he's better. He's got some other inflammatory issues going on, but I mean, just getting back in the functional range of everything one at a time is just, it's the way to health, and healthy people do exist, and it is possible for you to get better out there.
Yeah, and a lot of people, for instance, aren't getting the help they need from a functional perspective in the thyroid community, in the conventional community, because most thyroid issues are autoimmune in nature. Mm-hmm. So because they're autoimmune, giving a thyroid hormone does not fix the immune system destroying the thyroid tissue. And then the inflammation that's then created by that then affects conversion of T4 to T3. It then affects receptor site uptake. So it affects the hormone from binding into the receptor site. So a hormone has to go into this receptor site to have a metabolic effect. Kind of like your key's useless unless it goes into the lock and turns. It's kind of the same thing. And autoimmunity is affected by things like gluten and potentially dairy and infections and selenium levels and nutrient levels and leaky gut and all of these things that are functional medicine issues and that will never, ever be touched upon in the conventional medicine community.
Yep. So just a quick question. I know we got to wrap things up here. People that are listening, they may just feel like, wow, this Synthroid is killing me. Going cold turkey on Synthroid, what are the complications or issues there?
Well, again, if you're prescribed a thyroid hormone by your conventional medical doctor, most of the time, 99% of the time, you need it because they're using TSH as a established range to dose thyroid hormone. The problem with that is that TSH takes about 5 to 10 years to go high. So most of the time your thyroid issue has been going on for almost a decade. So you don't ever want to come off thyroid hormone if you were prescribed it, but you want to find in someone like us. Now, typically what I do off the bat is I don't ever take them off their thyroid hormone, but we may change and put them on a full spectrum thyroid hormone where they're getting T4, the same T4 levels, not touching that at all, but also adding in some T3 as well. And then also looking at the adrenal side of the fence. And most people that are dosed thyroid hormone based on TSH, they aren't given enough thyroid hormone. So if the gland has been destroyed for a couple decades or a decade or so, they may need thyroid hormone because the B cells, right, the immune cells have infiltrated that thyroid. They've destroyed it. Now the tissue has gone fibrotic. It's now scar tissue, and it's no longer functional. Again, we may be able to get recovery back, but if we don't have recovery, we got to make sure we're getting enough thyroid hormone for healthy function. So we always want to make sure we're getting enough thyroid hormone, but we don't want to base it off a TSH per se. We actually want to use our T3 free and T3 total to look at how much active hormone we're actually making. That's going to be the best way to do it. Don't look at TSH. Your brain is much more sensitive to thyroid hormone than the peripheral tissue. So what happens is the thyroid hormone, the TSH, will actually go lower in response to the thyroid hormone. So your thyroid hormone may not be quite where it needs to be for optimal function in that T3 reference range, but your TSH may go low because your TSH and your thyroid are inverse, right? TSH goes high when thyroid's low. TSH goes low when thyroid's high. So if we see the TSH drop, most doctors go, oh no, we're giving you too much thyroid hormone, you're overdosing, you have Graves. But just look at the T3. Most of the time we'll see the T3 in the top half to the top 25% of the range. It's not even high, but most docs will just jump to that conclusion, you're giving too much, without actually looking at the hormones individually, which drives me nuts, because it's like, if we can look at the direct temperature, if we can look at the direct measurement of the hormone, let's do it. And the analogy I give my patients is using TSH as a gauge for thyroid hormone levels is like going outside and feeling the sidewalk to detect what the temperature is, right? The sidewalk's always going to be way hotter than what it is, right? So we have this extra sensitivity thing going on. And why the hell touch the sidewalk when you can just look at the thermometer or pull up your weather app on your phone, right? We have much more sensitive ways. So don't go outside touching the sidewalk. Go and look at your app for the temperature. Same thing with your thyroid.
That's awesome. I was waiting for the analogy, man, and I'm pumped. That's a great way to wrap this thing up.
That analogy hit me 2 weeks ago, and I was like, eureka.
That was incredible. I was thinking the whole time you were going through this, I was listening, but I was trying to visualize an analogy, and I was drawing blanks. So you really killed it with that one.
Yeah, thank you. And I just want everyone that's in the conventional model and trying to get help, I know how it feels. It's ridiculously frustrating. I have so much empathy. Don't bang your head against the wall. I want you to have compassion for your medical doctor and to understand where they're coming from. They're just coming from a different place, okay? So if you need the functional medicine support to heal, which the majority of people do, then we need a different approach. And your MD may not be the best person to get that approach. Get all the pathology stuff ruled out first. We want to make sure nothing's being missed from a global pathological standpoint, like a cancer or something, maybe an overt, hypothyroid issue like TSH through the roof or something. But once that's been addressed, they got to reach out to people like you and people like me to get this stuff under wraps.
Definitely.
So I know I went into professor mode today. We're going to have this stuff all transcribed. So go back, take a look at it, read it a few times. We'll do more podcasts on it. People have more questions. Let us know. We're going to be happy to break this down. I want everyone to walk away with an action item. So action item is get a full thyroid test, get a full adrenal test if you're on the fence. That's your first two things to do. And then from there, we can talk about options about what the next steps are. But those are your first two options. And if they need it, they can get it from me or from you.
Yep. Sounds great.
Evan, do you want to add some stuff? I feel like I was just an absolute ball hog today. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, perfectly fine. I'm sitting here loving it, man. It's been great. No, I just want to say that, the main thing is that you're taking baby steps in the right direction. So maybe you're on the fence about this. You're looking into the testing. That doesn't mean that you should wait until you get testing and you actually get a piece of paper that says you need help. It's okay to go ahead and start helping yourself right now. Removing the gluten if you're still eating that. Removing the excess stimulants if you're doing that. If you're speeding 30 miles over the speed limit today on the highway, reducing that. All of these lifestyle things that we're going to recommend you anyway. Go ahead and get started on some of those now. If your speedometer or your RPM in your car is redlining right now, you have the power to turn that down and get yourself out of the red line. Take a hot Epsom salt bath or something this evening. Get that red line down, start calming yourself down and getting yourself ready for the therapy that we're going to put you on anyway. And you're really going to help accelerate your results. You're going to get better faster. And at the end of the day, that's what we want. We want to help you get well as fast as possible, but in an ethical and, an intelligent way. We don't just want to come in with a huge jackhammer. So just slowly work yourself there and start swimming now, and we'll meet you at the other side.
Absolutely. And you forgot to mention how important consuming the grass-fed leprechauns are.
Grass-fed leprechauns, yep.
All right, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the show. Check out the transcription, beyondwellnessradio.com, not just paleo.com. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day.
Got a question for Dr. J? Go to beyondwellnessradio.com and click the questions button. Then tune in to hear the answer. Also, if you like the show, click below to review us on iTunes. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.